Ugh. What is the best video game of all time? And why is it Outer Wilds? Remember when Moses came down from the mountain with the Ten Commandments? Yeah, Annapurna Interactive came down with Outer Wilds. This is the greatest game ever made. That's not glazing either. You just haven't played it yet. Before I even talk more about this masterpiece of a game, if you even have the slightest thought of wanting to play it, go do that before you watch this video, because this is going to be filled with spoilers. I'm not holding nothing back. You know, normally the Outer Wilds community is like, hey, don't spoil things, guys. It ruins it for everyone else. Well, I have to do this for a college project, buddy, so you're getting spoiled if you don't play the game. Go do that, come back, I will be here, and we can go through this together. Outer Wilds was developed by Mobius Digital in 2019, and I consider it to be my greatest game of all time. Period. Hands down. This is coming from a guy who has almost 2,000 hours in Destiny, and God forbid knows how many hours in Minecraft, and Outer Wilds is my favorite game. I have barely 20 hours in this game, and it is my favorite game of all time. Like, is that not crazy? Now, the game isn't traditional in the sense that you go out and complete quests. You don't go to clear this dungeon and get a shiny new spaceship you can fly around the solar system with. No. The only thing you get in Outer Wilds is knowledge, buddy. Yep. And you know how you get that? Through reading. Yeah. I haven't read a book willingly since middle school, okay? Percy Jackson was the last book I read willingly, and that was great, But, I kind of grew out of love with that. Outer Wilds, there's not one spoken line of dialogue in this entire game, and I read every single word, okay? Completed the whole ship index. There's a computer in your ship which gives you the schizophrenic board of stuff, and this is how you keep track of what you're doing in the game. You better get real familiar with it. It's like that Sunny in Philadelphia picture of the dude pointing at the board. That's exactly what this game is like, and I loved every second of it. In a world full of games that are designed for you to play every day of your life for hours and hours on end. Again, I'm a Destiny fan, so I know all about that. That game's my second job. The Outer Wilds is a game you can only really play one time, because once you know what to do, it's over. I mean, you can just get to the end of the game and there's no point. You already know everything. But that's what makes it special. You will never play the game the same way you did the first time ever again. You can't recreate it. It's insane. So having said all of that, the point of this video you're watching right now is I want to take you through my Outer Wilds playthrough, the first one, the very first one. I recorded this back in 2019, buddy. I mean, what kind of pre-planning is this? I'm going to take you through it with me. We're going to go through the entire story. So once again, if you have not played the game and you want to, go play it, because by watching this video, it will ruin your playthrough, because you already know what to do, buddy. Go play the game, come back, I'll be here. You have 5 seconds. Let's get into the video. So, in Outer Wilds, you play as this guy, the Hatchling. You are a Hearthian who lives on Timber Hearth, and you fly in this spaceship. Yeah, this little ship made out of duct tape, that's what you're flying around in. Have fun, buddy. So you make your way to the observatory, and you hear how you're the first Outer Wilds astronaut to have this translator thing. You can look at these ruins in the observatory and translate the text of these ancient people called the Nomai, who are presumed extinct now. They were in the solar system like thousands of years before y'all were, but you can see their ruins throughout the game, and this translator, this is the most important item in the entire game. You would have no idea what's going on if this thing didn't exist, and this is where the reading comes in. So this thing's your best friend, alright? So you speak to this dude, you get your launch codes, you head out the observatory, but the statue you saw on the way in does this.
Oh, I'm terrible.
Yeah, okay, that's not freaky at all. On with it. Here we go. You go to your ship and you take off. Where do you go? If you're like me, you go straight to the moon. So I make my way to the Idle Rock, Timberhearth's moon. I meet Esker there, who's this really lonely guy. You should go visit him more. Feel bad if you didn't. So you can enter these Nomai ruins on the moon, and there's some notes on the walls about the eye of the universe and how this little moon ruins thing was a signal detector to try and detect the signal that the eye was giving out. So you can go upstairs, you can play with the little cool little ball thing to change how the signal locator's doing. It tracks the planets and stuff and makes you can hear. But if you try to track this little eye symbol, it just goes all over the place. It's all crazy. So that's not working for now. Moon's pretty small. I'm not sure if there's much left to find. Oh yeah, while you're exploring, the sun explodes.
Dude,
What the fuck?
yeah, I've gotten some of these too. Just a little strange.
Dude, Barron Trump's a giga. I think he's 6'9".
No, he's 6'9".
Barron Trump's 6'9".
Jeez,
18 years old.
holy fuck!
There you go. Game's over. You died. Sun exploded. Nothing you can do about it. Oh wait, what's this? So yep, you wake up at the campfire, and what's this? You already have the launch codes. Oh yeah, baby. Time loop. This time loop mechanic is the key aspect of Outer Wilds. This is what the whole plot of the game revolves around. Why did the sun explode? Why are we in a time loop? And what can we do about it? Well, I think a good place to start is that big blue explosion in the sky every time we wake up under the campfire. So let's go head over to Giant's Deep, why don't we? Alright, so before we even get to touchdown on Giant's Deep, guess who's here in the sky? This little quantum moon buddy. I try to go land on him. Go right freaking through him. So that's pretty cool. Guess you can't do that yet. Go down to the planet. It is awesome, man. It's a big water world. There's giant tornadoes that pick up the islands and throw them out of the atmosphere. It's crazy. They come crashing back down. But if you go under the water, there's like a little current that prevents you from going any deeper. So there's probably something down there, but just don't know how to get to it yet. You go fly around the planet, and you find this island with this campfire on it. So obviously, I'm going to stop there. I land, and I meet Gabbro, who's a Hearthian like us, except he's also in the time loop. He found a statue on some island nearby. It looked at him, same thing that happened to us, and now he's in the time loop too, which is very cool. You can come back to him throughout the game, and he'll have like different updates. You can tell him, like, hey, I found this out, and he's like, man, that's super cool. He teaches you how to meditate, so if you want to like skip the time loop, you're like, okay, I want to go to this planet, just find out what I want to know, and then end the loop, go to another planet. You can meditate, it skips the whole loop. You just start the next one immediately. He teaches you how to do that. He's probably high as hell, but this is a judgment-free zone, and he's pretty chill, so it's whatever. So I make my way to the statue island he was talking about. I find my way inside. You have to go in through the bottom of the island. It's pretty sick. You gotta go under the water and up into it. Awesome. So these masks are part of something called the Ash Twin Project, a project that Nomai were working on, that the masks send your memories back to something in the Ash Twin Project, which then sends the memories back to you. That's the time loop. It's your memories being sent back in time to you 22 minutes before they're captured. So if you try and leave the solar system, which you can totally try to do, right? Like supernova is going to happen. You know it's going to happen. Just leave. If you do that, this thing comes and obscures your vision because your memories are being sent back in time no matter what happens. So you are stuck until you figure out how to either turn the loop off or stop the sun from exploding. Both are pretty good options, but I think stopping the sun exploding is more of a problem since, you know, I got a couple friends here that I don't really want to die. So let's try and focus on that. One small problem though, this Ash Twin Project was only supposed to turn on if something went wrong. That's just what they say in the note verbatim. Something goes wrong. Don't know what. I mean, maybe the sun exploding is something going wrong. Just a slight guess. So, what we came to the planet to do first. I got a little sidetracked. I landed first. Orbital probe cannon. That's the thing in the orbit that explodes at the start of every loop. It explodes, it shoots this thing out across the sky. You can even follow it. It's a probe. There's nothing to find there, but you can follow it. It's pretty cool. So we find out by exploring the probe cannon, it's destroyed, by the way, because the Nomai decided to crank that to 11 and let it ring. I mean, go hard or go home, right? So the whole point of this probe cannon is to shoot out probes so the Nomai can try and find this Eye of the Universe thing that we mentioned back on the Attlerock. Now, this sounds like a good thing, right? We can find out where the Eye of the Universe is if the Nomai found it using these probes. No, because you see, the probe tracking module falls out of the frickin' cannon into the planet, probably below that current we can't get through right now. So I'm going to keep following this Eye of the Universe lead, but there's not really much to go off of right here. But the ruins on the Attlerock said they built a stronger signal detector on Brittle Hollow. So let's head to Brittle Hollow. Brittle Hollow is my favorite planet in the game, and it's not close. So you have this volcanic moon in orbit shooting little meteors down on the planet, causing the surface of the planet to become unstable and fall. Where does it fall? Into the black hole that was the core of the planet. Is that not awesome? So naturally, I go under the surface of the planet because there's a black hole there. That's awesome. I find out that there's this Nomai city attached to the bottom of the crust, like hanging. They call it the Hanging City. So, you know, you can follow a path down into the first little settlement they made, and you can find these ruins that talk about how they followed the signal of the Eye of the Universe here, and yep, the vessel crashed in Dark Bramble, shot out 3 escape pods, 2 of which landed in the Outer Wild system, 1 of which is still in Dark Bramble. I'm going to take a guess and say things didn't go well for the guys in Dark Bramble. Partially on the account of, there's records here of anglerfish. This is a space game. Why are there anglerfish? There's also a note about how to avoid the anglerfish, so I guess that's something I'm going to have to deal with. The note to avoid the anglerfish is on one of the twin planets, so that's going to be on the to-do list before we even think about going to Dark Bramble, because I'm not messing with giant space anglerfish. The ruins also talk about how the Nomai were trying to create a warp core for the Ash Twin project. A warp core. That's got my sci-fi brain going, yep, I want to find out what that is because I'm a huge nerd. Now, we find the shrine in the city that's dedicated to the Eye of the Universe. We find out that the Nomai started documenting what they learned about it and stuff like that. They learned 2 things. 1, they can't detect the signal anymore, so apparently it's not outputting a signal anymore. 2, the Eye of the Universe is older than the universe itself. Now, I don't know about you, but that line right there grabbed me. I immediately want to know what the Eye of the Universe is now. Another thing to note is that the ghost matter we found in the tutorial village is here as well. Ghost matter is everywhere in the system. It's on every single planet, except Dark Bramble, because Dark Bramble, again, isn't a planet. Dark Bramble is hell. Don't go to Dark Bramble. I couldn't find any other leads in this hanging city, so I decided to jump into the black hole because the Nomai said apparently you can do that and be fine. So in we go. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Welcome to White Hole Station. Now, this place is super cool. You can watch the parts of Brittle Hollow fall and then pop out of the white hole all inverted. That's actually how you solve a puzzle later in the game. We'll get to that. So the main thing of note here is the White Hole Station itself. You can go inside, and there's this little diagram on the wall that shows the rotation of the tower, and it's alignment with Brittle Hollow. This is a warp tower that the Nomai were building. So if you're standing on the platform as the planet comes overhead, you will warp to that planet. And if you check the arrival terminal like the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, except without all the delays, you can see that you arrived 0.000 something seconds before you left the White Hole Station. That's important later too. Keep note of that. Now, after warping back to the planet, a meteor hit the piece of the crust I was standing on and fell out from under my feet, so I reluctantly fell back towards the black hole, but I noticed this little, like, gravity tower thing that I could fall into, and it sucks me up, and I met Rybeck. Ryback's a chill dude, but he doesn't like exploring space that much. He's kind of scared. And I mean, if I heard of giant space anglerfish floating around Dark Bramble, I don't think I'd be a big fan of space either. Think of Ryback like you, except he's playing the entire game in VR, so it's a lot more serious for him. Now, Ryback's been on this planet for a minute, so he knows where to go. He'll point us to some key locations on the planet, and we'll head in that direction. He tells us that the Southern Observatory, which is where this new tracking thing is we're looking for, you can't get in from the top. You have to go in through the bottom through a path the Nomai created along the bottom of the crust of the planet. While I'm walking around trying to find that, I find the gravity cannon. Yeah, that's awesome. And I read the little terminal thing and find out the shuttle from the cannon is parked on the Quantum Moon. That's pretty interesting, because I guess I don't have a permit or something, because I couldn't park there. So I recall the shuttle using the terminal for the gravity cannon and find out a Nomai is there, named Solanum, who might still be there. Unfortunately, we still don't know how to land on the moon like they did. I tried flying the shuttle. It's got inverted controls or something, man. I don't know how any of this works. But that dead end didn't last long, though, because on the other side of the planet is the Tower of Quantum Knowledge. That probably has something to do with this quantum moon we're trying to get to. Now, you can't get up normally because the little anti-grav walkway is broken. But this is what I was talking about earlier. You have to wait for this thing to get hit by the meteors enough to fall through the black hole and come out at Whitehall Station so you can fly your little anti-grav butt in there and read all the notes and stuff on the wall. So this Tower of Quantum Knowledge tells us that this journey to the quantum moon is something super significant for the Nomai. It's like a rite of passage of sorts. It's like getting hazed at a fraternity, except without all the elephant walking and shotgunning warm beer. The reason why this journey was so significant is because getting to the quantum moon was the first goal the Nomai had once they reconnected after the crash of the vessel. The Nomai that landed on Brittle Hollow and the Nomai that landed on the Hourglass Twins both saw the quantum moon in the sky without having any contact with each other. So once they reunited and went to talk to each other about this quantum moon, they were both like, yeah, let's go find that. So here's where we learn our first quantum rule. It's technically the last one for the Nomai, but for us it's the first. And this rule is something about the moon's 6th location. Now, there are 5 planets in the game, and I use that term very loosely because the Hourglass Twins are 2 planets, and Dark Bramble, again, is hell. It's not a planet. And this quantum moon, we can see hops around from each planet, but sometimes it's not near any planet at all. So that's probably what this 6th location is talking about. The quantum moon goes somewhere else that's not in the Outer Wilds system. And thankfully, now we know how to get there, except one small problem, we still don't know how to land on the moon without just flying straight frickin' through it. But if this is the last quantum rule, it probably serves to think that there's probably some more we can find out there. Now, I finally found my way into the observatory, which is where this more delicate eye tracker is. So the Nomai built this new locator, but it also cannot detect the signal just like the one on the Owl Rock, which is kind of tough. You got one 2 a.m. booty call, missed it, didn't get a call back. That's tough, man. I'm sorry. So the Nomai decided to look for the Eye of the Universe visually instead. That's why they built the Orbital Probe Cannon. That's one thread we have done. One schizo line on the board completely filled out. We also find out, through this beautiful model that they made, don't know how they did that the tornadoes on Giants Deep, most of them rotate the same way, but some of them do it the opposite way, and instead of shooting stuff up out of the atmosphere, can actually shoot you down through the current that we tried to get through before. So maybe now we can try and find that probe module. Yeah, no, you can't. You can get through the current, yeah. You go into the tornado and it shoots you down, but there's nothing down there except for the core of the planet, which seems to be inaccessible for us for now. With this being kind of a dead end for now, I decided to go ahead and pack up my stuff and head off to the Hourglass Twins because they looked really cool spinning around each other. Welcome to the Hourglass Twins. You got Ember Twin and you got Ash Twin. Ash Twin's constantly dumping sand onto Ember Twin, which is covered in caves. So if you go into one of Ember Twin's caves and aren't paying attention for too long, that sand's gonna start rising on you and it's gonna crush you and make the most horrific sound I think I've ever heard in a video game. So the first thing I find on this planet is a cave, and inside of it's a rock that behaves just like the quantum moon. If you're not looking at it, it disappears. And what I find out is if I'm standing on the rock and turn the lights off so I can't see it anymore, I travel with the rock wherever it decides to leap to when it goes quantum. And just like that, we have our second quantum rule. If you're standing on a quantum object when it moves, you also move with it. Now again, like the first rule, that doesn't really help us land on the quantum moon, but I'm guessing it's like giving us a nudge of what to do when we actually get there, which is good, but I would kind of like to know how to get there first. We also meet Chert on this planet. He's just chilling out on his campfire looking at the stars and stuff. He notices that there's a lot of supernova recently. He has no idea what's about to happen in about 12 minutes. You can actually come back and talk to him like over the course of the loop, and he will slowly, as time goes on over the course, like it's like every 5 minutes, you come back and he's freaking losing it, man. I honestly kind of feel bad for the dude, but you can go back and tell him that, hey man, it's a time loop anyway. And he's like, oh, is that how you're coping with it? I mean, how else do you want me to cope with the fact that the sun's about to explode and you're sitting on the closest planet to it, dude? So on this planet, there's also another locator, like the one on the Attlerock and Brittle Hollow. But this one's not for the Eye of the Universe, it's for the quantum moon. It tracks which planet it goes to. But sometimes, the locator just spins. So I guess there is a 6th location. Those quantum rules are going to come in handy after all. There's a city underneath this planet as well, called the Sunless City. It's not like the Hanging City, it's not hanging from the bottom of the crust, because, you know, this planet's kind of normal. It doesn't have a black hole in the center of it, so they're just in caves. But we do find a cave with an anglerfish skeleton, and holy crap are these dudes big! If that doesn't make you want to not go to Dark Bramble, I don't know what does. I'm never going to that planet ever. But I find a note that if you shoot a light in the thing's mouth, it'll shine down through its skeleton and you can see from below where to enter up in there and find something out about the anglerfish. So I shoot my little scout buddy in there and I go find my way up in there, and I find out through a note at the very top of the cave that anglerfish are blind. So I'm already gonna know how to avoid those suckers when I get to Dark Bramble. Not that I'm ever going, but in the event that I have to, we know how to avoid them now. They're blind, so be super freaking quiet. So we find out through writing on the walls in the Sunless City that the Nomai had to power the Ash Twin project somehow. So they debated building a sun station. I say debated, even though we can see it floating around the sun for the first half of the loop before the sun expands to the point where it eats it. Strong little hint on the wall here, they say if the sun station fails, it will destroy the star system. So I wonder if the sun station's what's making the sun explode. You can find a lab here as well that shows you that the Nomai were able to recreate those time shenanigans that were happening at White Hole Station, you know, coming in before you even left the black hole. They found out how to recreate that in the lab. And I did as well, but I decided to take a core out of the thing as my scout was flying through it and kind of broke the fabric of space-time. So I guess the sun exploding is the least of my problems. So at this lab, after I broke space-time, came back next loop, you can find out that the Nomai built warp towers just like the one at White Hole Station on Ash Twin. And if you hang around and watch the sand fall, you can see them starting to be revealed a little bit. And yep, sure enough, there's one warp tower for each planet. They're even all stylized, like the one for Timber Hearths, like the Geyser Mountains on the planet, and the one for Giant Steeps of Dig, like Cyclone. Pretty sick. But the point of these towers were to transfer materials from those planets to Ash Twin for the Ash Twin project. So we're getting closer to it. If you wait around for the sand to completely drain from the planet, you can even see the, I think it's the core of the planet, and these big, huge towers coming off of it with energy shooting out of them. So that's probably where the Ash Twin project is, but from the outside, there doesn't seem to be a way to get in there. So I retraced my steps a little bit, went back to Giant Steep. There's an island there with a frozen jellyfish on it. The jellyfish that keep coming in and out of the core of the planet. Turns out another Hearthian named Feldspar went to the core of the planet. He left a little recording there bragging about it. But guess where he went? Dark Bramble. And I'm not going there yet. On my journey not to go to Dark Bramble anytime soon, I headed to the big, giant tornado on Giant's Deep, and using the trick we learned earlier, I went under the tornado and popped out up inside of it and found this huge Nomai tower. And guess what it's for, baby? A little note at the door says that it's for gaining knowledge you need to get to the Quantum Moon. Another task falls into my lap to keep me from going to Dark Bramble. Today's gonna be a good day. So you go through this cool puzzle gauntlet on your way down the tower, and you find out that one of the last quantum rules is looking at a picture of a quantum object is the same thing as looking at it. So if you have your little scout take a picture of, let's say, this little gravity crystal on the wall here, if I take a picture of it, I can look away and it will not move. I wonder if we take a picture of the moon, will it move? And sure enough, we get to the end of the puzzle and it tells us that that's the last quantum rule we need to get to the quantum moon. So I wonder, if we snap a gram of that bad boy, can we go land on it? You sure can. Now, the cool thing about the quantum moon is that whatever planet it's orbiting around, the surface mirrors that planet. So if you're at Giant's Deep, it's like knee-deep water across the entire quantum moon. And if you're at Dark Bramble, it looks like Skid Row. Now, my excitement finding the quantum moon was shortly ruined when I found the body of Solanum, that Nomai I was excited to try and meet. Yeah, just laying here on the floor. Pretty depressing. Did find their shuttle though. We know that that's where they landed, so we are on the right track. So we find the Nomai shrine they built here on the moon, and it has 3 little signs that say, recall the 3 quantum rules, and it has the pictures of the 3 places we've already been to that tell us what the quantum rules are. So all we have to do is put the pieces together, and we can get to that 6th location. Now, the only problem is all of these planets that we try and get to the 6th location from, the path to the North Pole that we need the shrine to be on is blocked. So we kind of have to do some planet hopping here. So I hopped over to the Giant's Deep version of the quantum moon, walked around, did a little turning around before the shrine popped up behind me, got as close to the North Pole as I could get, switched that bad boy to Timber Hearth, and of course, home sweet home, the North Pole is free eats over here. We walk over, turn around, turn back around so the quantum objects can move, tower shows up, walk in, turn the lights off, flip that door open. Guess what? Here we are, the 6th location. Now, the 6th location's pretty straightforward. You can't go backwards, you can't go left, you can't go right, you just gotta walk forward. And walking forward, what do we find than a living, breathing Nomai? Hello, that's awesome. So it turns out Solanum is alive. Kinda. Despite being dead on every other version of the quantum moon, here at the 6th location, she's fine and dandy. Now, to talk to Solanum, she uses her little staff thing, which is how we find out that Nomai have been writing those notes on the walls. She just taps the wall and it just traces the little words right there. It's pretty cool. She makes these little pictures that we can put in these pedestals and combine them so we can actually talk to her. Now, it makes sense that she can't understand us, but thankfully, we have our trusty little translator, so we know every single word she's saying. Which, I mean, that is so cool. Most games would be like, yeah, she just knows what you're saying. Not Outer Wilds. No. You have to play Pictionary with her to find out more info about what you want to know. So, Salam says that the quantum moon is actually the moon of the eye of the universe, which means this 6th location we're both standing on, we're orbiting the eye of the universe. So close, but so far. She also says she doesn't believe she's like truly alive, which, I mean, 5 out of 6 Solanums would agree they're dead everywhere else. But this one's alive, so that's cool. So I did decide to go to Dark Bramble after this. I got eaten by an anglerfish almost immediately and decided I didn't want to do that, so I would go back and fill out these little question marks on my board because it doesn't look very schizophrenic when there's only a couple lines coming off of it. I need the full picture. I go back home to Timber Hearth and find out in the biggest geyser mountain, you can land your ship in there and there's a Nomai mine inside. And they're actually mining rocks from Timber Hearth that look exactly like the core of Ash Twin, We also find a note that it says it's very important that the Ash Twin project is completely sealed in from the outside. So we know we didn't miss anything when we were looking earlier at the core of the planet. So I head back to Ash Twin, let the sand drain a little bit, and there's just one tower that's all like triangular. It doesn't look like any of the planets we've seen before. So this might be the one that leads to the Ash Twin project. I wait, go into the thing, it warps me to the sun station. It turns out if I did my reading back on Ember Twin, it tells you that this is for the sun station, and that wouldn't have surprised me, but I spent the first 2 minutes at the sun station looking around like an idiot because I was like, I didn't even know you could warp here. I mean, I can see it in my footage. I looked at the sign that said, this is the tower for the sun station, and was like, hey, I'm gonna forget that in about 30 minutes when I go there. But this is a good thing. We can turn off the sun station and stop the sun from exploding, right? Not quite. You see, the station did fire one time, 300,000 years ago. I don't think we're in a 300,000 year time loop. I think anything further back than 22 minutes is our limit. So we find out that after the Nomai fired the sun station, nothing had happened. The sun station failed. The Nomai say in one of their note entries that the sun station could not have ever made the sun explode, and it was a ridiculous idea to begin with. But because it failed, they have no way of knowing how they're going to power the Ash Twin project. Another thing is that if we go over this little record thing right here in the sun station, it tells us that the sun is approaching the end of its natural life cycle. I don't think a time loop's going to help us solve that problem. Now, that's a little depressing. The sun's just dying of old age. There's nothing really we can do about that. However, we're not out of solutions yet though, because we still have the Eye of the Universe. Maybe that can help us solve this problem somehow. We also still don't know what happened to the Nomai, and what the Ash Twin project truly is, and how to get there. So I go back to Ash Twin, and I try all of the warp towers. I finally get to this one with a broken ceiling, and if you stand on the platform, the sand pillar rips you off of it, so you have to hide in this little cubby and run out just in time, and guess where it teleports you to? That's right, baby, the Ash Twin project. So we find out the point of this project was so the Nomai could get the info from their deep space probes. Because they could only shoot out one probe at a time, they decided to create a time loop so they could keep shooting out the same probe in different directions over and over again. Now, had this worked as intended, this 22-minute time loop would have continued until one of the probes from the orbital probe cannon found the coordinates of the Eye of the Universe, because the Nomai gave that probe its own statue in Ash Twin. So the probe, each loop, sends its memories back in time, just like we are, to the Ash Twin project. But of course, the sun station didn't work, so the sun didn't explode, so they couldn't power the Ash Twin project. So the Nomai never got it to work to begin with. Fiddling with the controls of the Ash Twin project, we find out there is a working warp core in the center of the project. A warp core that, if we remove, turns off the project, which means no more time loop, no more take backsies. That's ride or die right there. And I don't know about you, but I got some more questions I want to answer first, so I'm going to keep this loop going for a little bit. The last record here at the Ash Twin project tells us that the Nomai put the project on hold to go check out a comet that recently entered the solar system, a comet which is still in orbit around the sun, the Interloper. The Interloper might be the most depressing location in the entire game, and that's including Dark Bramble. We can find a Nomai shuttle frozen on the tail end of the ship that's linked to the gravity cannon on Ember Twin. I go back to Ember Twin, I recall the ship, and find out that one of the Nomai stayed back on the ship while two others went into the Interloper to find out what was going on, because they didn't want the shuttle to freeze, so one of them needed to stay back and keep it warm. If we go back to the Interloper and wait for it to become close enough to the sun, the ice on the face of the comet melts, so we can go inside of it, and there is ghost matter everywhere. So you gotta slip and slide your way around this comet without turning into Curly for mouthwashing. Thank you for one of my classmates for recommending that game in a discussion post, by the way. It was really good. And you find notes that say that the pressure inside the comet was extreme and was giving off crazy energy readings, which is why the two Nomai decided to keep going inside the comet, a path of which you can follow. So you find the body of one of these two Nomai. They look like they were climbing out of this crack in the ground, and you can enter it to enter the core of the comet. And the core of the comet is this crazy looking, like, shattered orb that looks like it bursts from the inside out. And here we can find the last Nomai with a recorder. And what the recorder says is that the pressure inside the core is extreme, and if it explodes, it's going to cover the solar system in this foreign matter that's inside of it. That's ghost matter. The core of this comet exploded and covered the entire system in ghost matter. That is why the Nomai in the Outer Wilds system are all dead. Because this comet exploded and sent ghost matter everywhere, which is why we can find it at every major Nomai civilization site, as well as a little bit on Timber Hearth. But that finally answers our question. That's what happened to the Nomai. That's why Solanum on the other locations the Quantum Moon visits is dead, because she wasn't outside of the range of the comet. That's why the only one alive is at the Eye of the Universe, because she's far enough away that when this comet exploded and covered all of Outer Wilds with this ghost matter, she wasn't affected. Now, whether or not it's a good or a bad thing, the recorder says that none of the Nomai knew what was happening, because the two that were still in the core were in the process of leaving to go tell everyone else what the danger of this comet was, and as we saw, they didn't get very far. Now, that leaves us with two more questions. What is the Eye of the Universe, and how on earth do we get there? Now, unfortunately, I think our answer lies within the probe tracking module in the core of Giant's Deep, which the only person who knows how to get there is in Dark Bramble. So we're going to have to go to Dark Bramble. I've never read Dante's Inferno, but I imagine Dark Bramble is every single layer of hell combined into one. Now, Dark Bramble does look cool. It's this little, like, seed pod thing with branches coming out of it attached to the shattered remains of the planet that used to be there, because Dark Bramble actually grew from inside the planet that used to be here and shattered it, sending fragments of it all across the solar system. So you can find chunks of this old planet on the other planets. And yep, here are the live giant anglerfish. And this time, flying by the anglerfish, I kept my trap shut, didn't touch my ship controls, and just glided on by. So they're actually not too bad once you get the hang of them. Following a signal from the Outer Wilds crews, we can find Feldspar, who lives in the skeleton of one of the anglerfish that's raw as hell. We can ask Feldspar how he made it to the core of Giant's Deep, and he tells us that if we go find his crashed ship, we can figure out how to get there. So we fly off behind him, we see his ship crash into this vine thing, we go in there, follow it up, and we find a jellyfish frozen in ice with a pickaxe on the inside of it that says the inside of a jellyfish insulates them from electricity. So if we go back to Giant's Deep, go up into jellyfish, go underneath the electrical core of the planet, we can probably get down there. But there's one more thing I want to find here. I'm trying to find the vessel, the ship the Nomai came here on. Now, sure enough, if you follow the distress signal from the escape pod of the Nomai, you can find it and follow the path they left to one of these Dark Bramble seed pods. Now, they're all around here, dead, which is kind of depressing, but if you shoot your little scout in there, the signal your scout gives out, you can go track that down and get to the Nomai vessel. The vessel's in rough shape once you find it. It looks super cool, but it's in rough shape, with branches of Dark Bramble crashed into it, kind of keeping it locked in place, it looks like. You can go in through a breach in the hull and find that there's a warp core there, it's just destroyed. You can also find out why the Nomai were alone here. They caught the signal from the Eye of the Universe and were so freaked out by the signal and thought it was so cool, they didn't want to leave it and risk it being lost to them. So they immediately decided to warp without telling any other clan of Nomai. And we can see that the rest of the Nomai are still alive. We can see a board that looks like it's pretty recent, talking about how the Nomai are gathering at a system because the universe is coming to an end. So that really hammers home that there's really nothing we can do about the whole sun exploding thing because it's just the end of the universe. We just gotta accept that, man. We can see actually that the Nomai still tell the tale of what happened to our group of Nomai at the Outer Wilds system as like a fairy tale. And while it's good to know that the Nomai aren't completely wiped out as a species, it's still kind of disheartening to hear what happened to ours, because you kind of get attached to them reading their logs. They all got like distinct personalities through their text. They're like, it's so quirky too. If the little kids are writing notes, it's all like squiggly and more spaced out, but the adults, their little messages are all the refined, nice lines. They got a lot of character for being words on a wall. Now, if we interact with the controls in the center of the room, we can flip them around to display a coordinate console. So you can input coordinates, which I assume are what we're going to find in the probe tracking module on Giant's Deep, so there's no better time to go try and find that than right now. Sure enough, using the tips from Feldspar, we can fly up into a jellyfish, let it carry us down through the core, get out, and lo and behold, in the very center of the planet is the probe tracking module. Interacting with it, we can find out that the orbital probe cannon has fired over 9 million probes. A number which is kind of insane considering we've only been aware of the last maybe 100 firings, because that's how long we've been in the loop. This loop has been going on for over 9 million times, and we've only been a part of it for maybe 50 loops. And if we keep moving the controls along, we can find out that probe 9,318,079 found the eye of the universe, and it displays the coordinates in the center of the room. And they look awfully like they can be input into the thing at the vessel. We have all the pieces now, we just have to put them together. So, we end this loop, and we start our final loop of the Outer Wilds. So, we make our way to the Ash Twin Project, we open the container for the warp core, and we reach in and take it out. No more take-backsies, no more time loops. This is make or break. So, go out, get back in your ship, and take off. And nearly die because Ember Twin decides it wants to clothesline you as you're traveling 200 miles per hour trying to get to Dark Bramble with a black hole in your hand. Anyway, you get to Dark Bramble, glide past the anglerfish so they don't eat you, follow the distress signal to the vessel, get to the vessel, hit the eject button, which shoots you out of the front of your ship, and nearly die because you did that, because you couldn't take the 5 seconds to get up, turn around, and get out of your ship the way you've gotten out every single other time because you decided to be extra while you're holding your life in your hands. You insert the core, the vessel roars to life, powers up. You flip the ball around, and you input the eye coordinates. The console lowers. You have one more little interactable ball thing, you flip it up, and you warp. Welcome to the Eye of the Universe. This looks so cool, and if you turn around a couple times, there's Quantum Moon Buddy. So Solanum's here too, you're not alone. Now, a little sad note about the Eye of the Universe is you can see our solar system right there, or not confirmed, but I mean, it's the brightest one, and it's orange like the sun. So we're just gonna say that's ours. Boop. Yeah, you can watch it explode from the eye, and the only thing that was keeping it still from not exploding, at least permanently, is tucked away in a console right behind us. So our whole solar system's gone. So we better make this trip count. Flipping the ball back around, we can open a black hole on the vessel that can teleport us to the Eye of the Universe, like setting foot on it. Yeah, we're gonna go through there. The eye is awesome. It's a lot like the Quantum Moon. There's not really much to go left, right, back. It's just kind of just walk straight and let the game take hold. There's trees flashing in and out, quantum rocks just showing up out of nowhere, huge storm covering the eye, and you make it to the end of the path you're on, and there's this hole in the clouds that it's sucking up into, and you have to walk underneath this little outcropping, and it's anti-gravity, so you're stuck to the bottom of it, and you jump up into the vortex and get taken. There's all this crazy imagery going around, and you come down into what looks like the forest of Timber Hearth, just like home. So you come out of the vortex and you get to what looks like a forest on Timber Hearth. It's filled with these tiny little galaxies, and you can walk up to them and float through them and stuff, and then they start all fading out. This grabbed me so hard after playing this game, because I already told you, this is my favorite game of all time. This ending, bro. Oh my gosh. And the music, oh my goodness. I will have my full reaction to the ending in the description. So if you want to see that, my unadulterated reaction, you can go check that out. I don't think there's any cursing in it, if that's a problem. No promises though. So they all fade out until you're left in the dark. And of course you're gonna look around or turn your flashlight on, and there's a campfire before you. A campfire just like the one you woke up next to at the start of the first loop. And you look around enough, Esker's chair shows up. Turn around, turn back around, there's Esker. And he asks you, aren't you gonna go grab everyone else? You have to go around this dark forest finding the instruments of all your friends, and once you find the instruments, they show up at the campfire. But there's one of these instruments that you don't recognize with your little signal thing. It turns out that's Solanum. Yeah, you go invite the Nomide to your little cookout at the end of the universe. That's pretty sick. And so you go talk to each of your friends, and they start playing their instruments. The instruments they were playing when you first met them, that you can detect from your signal scope whenever you are in the game. And it is the best video game soundtrack I've ever heard in my life. Especially when it's got that emotional attachment like it does. Oh my gosh. It's Travelers, by the way. Go listen to that song. Oh my, it's actually probably playing in the background right now. Oh my gosh. So you talk to them one by one, and they all start tuning into the song, and the campfire smoke starts forming a ball, and flashes coming out of it, and all of your friends are ready for the end and ask if you are. You say yes, and you jump into the campfire smoke, and everything explodes. In this huge ball of light, this dramatic music's playing, your helmet's cracked. So, I mean, if you play the game, you know what your cracked helmet means. It means you're done. It's over. Huge explosion happens. You're floating there watching everything happen. This crazy music's going in the background. And then it all fades to black. And then the credits play. And then it cuts, after the credits, to a screen that says 14.3 billion years later. And the camera pans back to reveal a sky full of stars in a new universe that you just created by entering the Eye. These crazy looking planets that are all like these weird shapes with like stars in the middle of them. And it cuts back to a Timber Hearth style forest, and a campfire roars to life, and we see 3 little ant dudes chilling by the fire. And I found this out. If you shoot your scout out in the Eye of the universe, your scout does a little flyby in the cutscene. So that's pretty cute. Now, having said all of that, I don't take this to be like an 100% accurate retelling of the story. I might have gotten some things wrong, but this is what I gathered through my playthrough and what I got out of the story. I think what the point of Outer Wilds is accepting what is and embracing what can be. Now, I wouldn't say you're led to believe, but you can infer that the point of the game is trying to get the sun to stop exploding so it doesn't, wipe out your whole solar system. But you get to the end and you realize that there's nothing you can really do about it. You just happen to be born at the end of the universe, and there's not really much point stressing about it, because what are you gonna do? I think Outer Wilds is trying to teach you to enjoy the time you have, and that's what that whole ending is for. It's for you coming together with all your friends at the end of the universe and having one nice campfire together before everything goes black. Now, Outer Wilds doesn't even end on a sad note like that, because it doesn't all end in black. You and your friends help create this whole new universe, which 14.3 billion years later, you got boys just hanging out at a campfire being boys. And I think that's a pretty high note to end on. But that's what's so unique about Outer Wilds. A normal game, you would go to the sun station and it would have worked. That's why the sun's exploding. The sun station worked. You just turn it off, game over. You come home a hero, you're like, hey, guys, I turned off the sun station. The sun's not going to explode anymore. We're not in a time loop. We're all good. Hats off to you, buddy. You did it. And that's what brings up the other point of uniqueness for this game. You can only play this game one time. Because now that you know everything, you can just go to the end of the game immediately. You're not going to be able to experience that joy of discovery that Outer Wilds brings to you on its first playthrough. That's what had me hooked in this game in the first place, was going to this location, finding all these like hints and clues and loose ends for stuff, and filling out that little schizo board. I think this game might have turned me into a schizophrenic. But you know, it's okay, because I'm a happy schizophrenic. And I think this game taught me that it's okay to accept things as they are sometimes, and not everything is a problem that needs to be solved. Now, my sun's not exploding or anything, but there are some things in my life that I'm like, hey, it's not worth stressing about. There's nothing I can do about it. The same conclusion I came to when the sun was exploding in Outer Wilds. There's nothing I can do about it. You just gotta roll with it, man. Now, if you came to the end of this video and you still haven't played Outer Wilds, number one, you played yourself, or number two, you're just not into video games, which is fine. But I hope this video at least motivated you to go watch someone play Outer Wilds. I'm sure there's a YouTuber somewhere out there who scratches that itch in your brain that's like, yeah, I can watch him play video games for like 3 hours. This game is something special, dude. Especially having come out when it did in 2019, not only did it release alongside a game with a such similar name by a huge developer, they did The Outer Worlds. This was made by the people who made Fallout New Vegas, my second favorite game of all time. And Outer Wilds beat that game for me. Video games have been a super important part of my life. I remember playing Modern Warfare 2 Spec Op missions with my dad back on the Xbox 360, okay? I grew up playing video games. I've played Minecraft since the game came out. So how come that game at the forefront of my favorite games gets immediately destroyed by this little wonderful masterpiece that Mobius Digital was able to drop in 2019? The answer to that question, I hope I've given to you in the last 53 minutes I've yapped about this game. Outer Wilds takes the special traits video games have as a storytelling medium and brings them to the forefront. Every part of this story that I experienced, you could experience in a completely different way. For example, maybe you got to the Eye of the Universe before you even went to the Quantum Moon. I don't know how you'd manage to do that, but the story could take place in a different order for every single person. Not one person has played this game the same way anyone else has. That's the difference something like a video game can do compared to a book. A book you read front to back, everyone reads it the exact same way. Video games aren't like that, and I think Outer Wilds highlights the positive traits of that way of storytelling better than any other game I've ever played. But thank you for watching. This is my first time doing a video like this, and I just edited most of the beginning portion of the video, and I'm really happy with how it's turning out, so I hope you enjoyed. Keep an eye out for an Echoes of the Eye video. That's probably coming, because this was super fun to make. I wanted to include the DLC in this video because I just couldn't get enough of the game, and I've been playing it off and on while I'm waiting for the stuff to get here, but I'm on kind of a time crunch. This green screen got here on Thursday morning. It is Thursday afternoon. I have to record, edit, upload, all before Friday at 11:59, so wish me luck. Again, thank you for watching.